Hello and welcome to our webinar, Advancing Engineering with AI Through the Next Generation of Strategic Portfolio Management with OnePlan. As always, we hope you find this insightful and please explore our YouTube channel for more content.
OnePlan is really at the forefront of strategic project portfolio management and also adding the AI component to that solution and that discipline. So really providing a next generation solution that applies to a lot of different parts of an organization. But today we're going to focus on the needs of engineering and how we can advance their purpose and their mission and their execution through the use of strategic portfolio management with OnePlan and AI. So with that, let's get moving forward. So some trends. The current state of project and portfolio management for engineering is continually evolving like it is in most markets, and it's driven by advancements in technology, changing project demands, which include demands of our customers, and the growing emphasis on efficiency and sustainability and other things that we have to comply with. And here are some trends and aspects of PPM and engineering, just some factors. By no means is it, exhaustive. Digital transformation in organizations. In many industries, it's changing, and the engineering component or engineering specific organizations are undergoing digital transformation. And this includes the adoption of digital tools, that includes project and portfolio management, and AI-driven analytics and collaborative software that help us make us more effective. And there's integrated systems and a move towards systems that bring everything into a common pane of glass or a common hub. And that's where OnePlan we're going to show you comes into play here today. It includes one place for planning, scheduling, resource management, financials, etc., all on a unified platform with built-in integrations to the things that we need to tie into. And agile and iterative approaches. As organizations try to become more responsive, they try to become more agile. And these methodologies are increasing, even in engineering projects. And it allows for more flexibility, faster iterations, and better responsiveness to changing requirements as it is in areas where we do just software development. And then data-driven decision-making is becoming paramount because we have the access to big data sets, because advanced analytics are available. AI is now becoming in vogue and people are figuring out ways to capitalize on that. We can use it to analyze project data, predict outcomes, and optimize resource allocation better than ever before. And these are things that are, critical for success in engineering projects. And then risk management. Engineering projects really probably as much as, if not more so than most project types, have risk management as a critical focus. And PPM tools in this arena need to focus on robust risk assessment and mitigation features that we can stay on top of that and avoid the pitfalls. Then remote collaboration. It started with the pandemic, but probably more prevalent now is a remote virtual workforce, and having the ability to be effective when everybody is not co-located in the same office. And now with more geographically and globally dispersed teams, it becomes even more paramount that these capabilities need to be mastered, and we need to become effective in this mode. Then of course, sustainability is something that many engineering projects have a strong focus on, and it just adds to the level of complexity of factors that need to be considered in to end up being successful and compliant at the end of our projects to deem them as successful. So major challenges of modern engineering projects. I mean, project management, portfolio management has its own challenges, but things that are specific to modern engineering. There's complexity, the interdisciplinary nature of projects, because you've got a lot of different internal and external parts of the organization and resources that need to be involved with their own requirements and constraints. There's technical complexity. There's globalization, as we talked about with the remote workforce, and that may involve not only your teams, but your supply chains and other regulatory environments that you have to comply with. On the budget and cost management side of things, projects frequently exceed initial budgets due to unforeseen circumstances. Change happens, and resource allocation and balancing costs with resource availability and having the right skill sets is something that's a challenge. Schedule and time constraints. Oftentimes in engineering, we're dealing with tight deadlines, and sometimes we're maybe overly optimistic when we actually estimate our schedules and such. On the risk management side of things, there's a lot of uncertainty in engineering, especially when we're doing more research and development and getting into new product areas, such as to respond to things such as market changes or technical failures or regulatory updates. And so the ground keeps shifting on us as we go through there. And the risk identification we really alluded to. Technology integration. There's rapid advancements in keeping up with new technology as we're doing engineering in technology, for example, and be able to integrate these things to stay current and make them effective into the projects and products that we have is something that is a challenge. Plus, we might have legacy systems that might be challenged in order to take advantage of some of these technological advances. And then sustainability, environment impact. Increasingly we have regulatory compliance and environmental things to comply with, and that may be different for different geographies, et cetera, as we go through that. And stakeholder management, as these projects become more complex and have more people to deal with and more people to comply with, our stakeholders become more diverse, and communication with them and keeping everybody on the same page becomes more of a challenge. There's quality control, right? There's supply chain disruptions in this current world, and material shortages what we're dealing with. Human resources, getting the right resources with the right skills, and hard to find good people these days. Not to mention the requirements we may have in our organizations for workforce diversity and inclusion requirements. There's a health and safety aspect when we're putting products out there. Regulatory compliance, ethical considerations, data management, it goes on and on. So the idea is that some of these things are common to different type of projects, but some of them are more emphasized when we're talking about modern engineering projects. So common components of engineering projects, not unlike a lot of other types of projects in your organization. We got to come up with scope definition. We have to do the project planning, right? We have to do design and development from concept all the way through detailed design, maybe prototype and testing, and then iterate into the refinement of those types of things. Procurement and logistics. Usually in engineering, there's materials and supplies and products that are involved, and we have to go through that whole process. Construction or manufacturing, depending on the type of engineering that we're doing. It could be constructing, it could be manufacturing. And the idea is we have to put those plans in place and then execute on that aspect of it. Then there's the testing of it and the commissioning of it and getting these things out to market. Documentation that has to happen through all these things with technical documents and drawings, et cetera, and certificates. There's the project management aspect of this, where we have to not only communicate up and down the chain and across our organizations and to our stakeholders, but then there's the change management piece that has to be brought under control, as well as budget and cost management and stakeholder management. And then obviously once we deliver, we have to hand over and close out and make sure that our customers and our clients accept it, that we make sure that the people that need to be trained do, and then we got to capture some lessons learned around the things from our experience as we go, because not everything goes according to plan. Then obviously when we deliver something, we got to support it typically, and then there's maintenance, warranty support, performance monitoring. So once again, complex dimensions, all that have to be harnessed. And how do we do this all under one umbrella? Well, if we're engineering in regards to developing products, it's more than just each individual effort. Product portfolio management is about developing and implementing a comprehensive and profitable business strategy for your company's entire product line or product lines. And it's a goal to make this as strong and as relevant and as profitable as we can. And so product portfolio management goes way beyond just singular product management and day-to-day project management of that product. We have to understand the goals and the benefits and boost our company's product bottom line, but also make sure that we're in alignment with where we want to go as an organization and in alignment with the marketplace and what we need to deliver. So the benefits of this is that we can actually, have visibility and evaluate product performance. Are things still worthy of being emphasized? Has the market moved on from these types of things? We can increase efficiency by looking at which products meet company goals and prioritize stronger products and maybe de-emphasize other products that aren't contributing the way they should. Improve the competitive ranking by tracking market trends. And businesses are better able to pinpoint customer needs, and if we can better adapt to changing market trends, we can become and maintain our leadership position in those markets. Centralizing data allows us to have teams and cross-functional departments that need to be involved in these things to better communicate with each other and stay on the same page and deliver the right things at the end of the day. It also gives us the ability to determine and prepare for risks across all dimensions of things. Research from the Manufacturers Alliance said that 61% of product managers rate product lifecycle and portfolio management as very or extremely important to their role, because product portfolio management helps make decisions in line with the reality of their product successes, meaning we don't have our heads in the sand and just keep throwing good money after bad if things aren't working. Now, portfolio management software that addresses some of these pain points and challenges that we have should have data analytics, product road mapping tools, risk management features, budget tracking, resource allocation, scheduling capabilities, time tracking where you need to do that, and then portfolio ranking tools so that you can actually stay on top of the things that we talked about. This is just a subset of the things we're going to talk about here today. On top of that, organizations are getting different methodologies. The move towards more agile approaches even hit engineering and product development, meaning agile is growing. People are trying to become agile and more responsive. The waterfall is still widely used for some projects or for certain parts of projects as we go through different stages. Some may do more of the requirements and assessment pieces in a more waterfall approach where their actual product development and research is happening in a more agile fashion, using sprints and backlogs. Or there may be some hybrid methodologies that combine both of those things or some cherry-picked versions. And the idea, regardless of that, because different methodologies, people may be using different tool sets and maybe using different approaches. So the different methodologies, some may be agile, some may be more waterfall. You might be using different tool sets that are more conducive to the approach that you're using. Now, the ability to bring that all up into a common portfolio solution for all this strategically is something that OnePlan brings to the party. In this case, bringing tools like an Azure DevOps or a Jira or a Microsoft Project or even just OnePlan itself and roll those together into a common pane of glass and visibility. This holds true even if leadership, or if all of our teams are doing Agile, and leadership maybe still wants more traditional business metrics. The idea we have to be able to provide that. So even if we're doing Agile and people are looking at things like sprints and burn-ups and burn-downs and velocity, leadership oftentimes still wants the language of business, and they want financials, and they want delivery dates, and they want other things that might not be part of what the teams are focused on. So hence, taking that and extending it to the concept of strategic portfolio management is important. It's a set of business capabilities, processes, and supporting portfolio management technology. But if you look at this diagram on the right, we have objectives or strategies. We might have tangible key results on that strategy execution to help track that strategy execution for leadership. But then we might have things like projects and epics and agile efforts and features for epic efforts or maybe product development. And they may be aligned with product lines, right, or products. They may be aligned with business capabilities or applications or value streams for continuous development and delivery. And the idea is these things have to interrelate. We have to factor all these things into our decision making and into our delivery, because if we want a success, if any one of these things falls down, it could impact the success of our overall effort. So leadership requires strategic portfolio management, or SPM, to support enterprise-wide strategy and execution alignment. We talked about cross-functional projects that get a lot of different departments and stakeholders involved. In order to keep that on track across the board, SPM really is required. And also, it has to factor in other elements other than the project or the product itself. There's business capabilities that may need to be modified or modernized. There's digital and physical products that we may be dependent on that have to be updated. Applications and other projects that we are dependent on for maybe some foundational technologies and things like that. We all have to have our eyes on those and be associated with those in order to deliver at the end of the day. And so we capture and define and prioritize business strategies, then we manage the execution of the initiatives that we have in engineering, and then the programs and the projects that drive the achievement of these strategies are executed on and provide full visibility on how they're related to the core functional assets that they're dependent on or that they're related to. Ultimately, it's because this world has gotten more complex and the landscape has gotten more complex that we need to factor these things in. So leadership sets direction, your IT or functional management owns the critical assets and infrastructure that we are dependent on, and the execution teams plan and deliver whatever projects or products they are in pursuit of in achieving those business goals. So the good news is that even though you may be sitting there saying, well, we're not doing all these things right now. Well, you don't have to, but I will say this, the pace of change and environmental turbulence out there in the marketplace is still going to create strain for organizations whether we do something or not. And the need for agility and strategic portfolio management is still there. There is room for improvement. Recent studies and this one I believe was from the Gartner Group, said that only 16% of organizations are highly effective at all three key attributes of strategic portfolio management, which is portfolio alignment, ongoing portfolio flexibility, and value-driven decision making. Means many have a long way to go. And then you don't have to tackle it all at once. Let's, build a roadmap for improving how we do things and maybe eventually adopt all these disciplines, but get on the road to that improvement as we go through. Because if we leave a fragmented approach and don't have this comprehensive strategic portfolio management view, it can lead to excessive costs, conflicting priorities, redundant processes and work, and even misaligned goals between different parts of the organization or contributors. So the other part of it is to keep our eye on the ball. Strategically, we have to be getting these new products and these new services and the other things that we're engineering out there into the marketplace. And it's very easy to get sucked into the day-to-day operational crises and divert our attentions and our bandwidth to those things and lose sight of or lower the priority of the strategic things that we're trying to do and deliver for the organization. We need visibility to that to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, OnePlan provides a path to strategic portfolio management, and it provides a complete solution for the enterprise for these cross-functional efforts. On the strategy side, we've got facilities for the business leaders to define their strategies, maybe with objectives and key results, OKRs, or develop value streams that we're going to develop to, that things are the key deliveries of value for our organization. The execution leaders that have the project and product development efforts, and some of those things may be using a more adaptive approach with different mixed methodologies, maybe pure agile approaches, maybe professional services automation, maybe product management. The idea is that one or all of those things can be fit under the same umbrella here in OnePlan. And then the functional leaders, the ones that have the enterprise architecture and the infrastructure, application portfolio management for the technologies and the applications that we might depend on to be able to deliver. And the product portfolio management as we're managing the life cycle of the products that we're engineering, the things that we're delivering to the marketplace. So OnePlan provides a very robust set of capabilities. From the upfront strategy piece where, we actually have, OKRs from leadership that might have objectives and key results that we're tracking to, that we're trying to strive to deliver on. The enterprise architecture, that's the fundamental underpinnings of the things that we have as an organization that allow us to deliver, whether they be product portfolios, whether they be application portfolios, whether they be business capabilities, et cetera. The idea here is that we need to factor that in, and there's a facility in here to identify those things, as well as ideation and requests. Once we have a strategy and an enterprise architecture, ideas come in from our internal and external customers or even our employees to say, these are the things that we think that we should be working on, and maybe they're putting in business cases. And we're vetting those based on the context of the strategy and the enterprise architecture that we have and the overall mission and vision of the company to see what we should be working on. Ultimately, we have to decide on that. And we have portfolio planning that allows us to decide what efforts out of that mix in the strategy elements are we going to work on and we going to embark upon, right? What are we going to fund? And then we might be looking at things from a more agile approach. We might look at it from a more roadmap type of delivery approach, or a variety of ways. But one of the things we have to factor in is our ability to provide resources and the bandwidth we have to deliver. And we have to reconcile the things we desire to do with our ability to apply resources to them in an effective way. And the capacity planning is a constraint. Same with the financial planning. Do we have the budgets to do the things we want to achieve, the benefits that we think we're going to achieve? And as the situations change on the ground on us, like we talked about earlier on, do we have the ability to evaluate alternatives quickly and look at what we might change course on and what the impacts that might have on resourcing or financials and other aspects, to be able to do what if scenario modeling? Ultimately, we're going to decide on a portfolio to execute on, and you need the tools to execute. Now, OnePlan has its own work planning tools for both waterfall planning and for agile planning with backlogs and sprints. But many organizations have already committed a lot of time, effort, and thought and other aspects into other planning tools. So the common planning tools that you find out there on the work planning side, whether it be Microsoft Project, Smartsheet, right, Monday.com, et cetera, we can bring that data into the portfolio should you want to hang on to that, even though we have our own tools that you don't need those. On the Agile side, using Azure DevOps or Jira or other tools like that, that's available to us. We talked about risk management being important. To be able to log risks and keep your eye on those, as well as log issues and change requests, lessons learned, et cetera, OnePlan has that ability innately built right into it so that you can track that all under the same umbrella. Now, the capacity plan that we came up with in the planning stage oftentimes is based upon the resource planning that's done on an individual project or initiative level. And those things are usually planned out and negotiated between the people that are responsible for the projects and with the people who are responsible for delivering the resources. And those all roll up into an overall capacity plan. Now, to keep things on the same page, team members are just as important. The people that are working on your projects, giving them a single pane of glass to go to look at their my work so that they can see what's on their plate, what's expected, how they're prioritized, and provide feedback, status and updates and comments, etc., about the things that they're working on back to the organization or back to the project or back to the product management as you need to. And timesheets are built right in, so if you need to report time for things like capitalization of labor or chargebacks or billing to customers, that's available to us as well. And then ultimately, all the reporting, individual status reports on your initiatives, dashboards for portfolio, program, product level information. And visualizations, we talked about all these complex things that are tied together, all these different dimensions. How are they interrelated? And we can graphically visualize those things in OnePlan. Ultimately, these things all come together so that we can deliver what we intend to deliver to our internal and external customers. Now, we talked about AI, artificial intelligence. OnePlan does have its own built-in AI assistant. We call her Sophia, and Sophia GPT. And she can be leveraged to assist us in all these different dimensions in the solution. It's always present within the OnePlan solution. Ultimately, you pull all these things together so that we can decide on the right work or the things that are the right things for the organization to be working on, and then ultimately to execute well and do the work right. So we do the right work and we do the work right. So Sophia GPT is a game changer. It's AI-driven collaboration for strategic portfolio management, and it is based on Microsoft Azure OpenAI model. And as opposed to OpenAI's ChatGPT on the open internet, this has more security, compliance, and privacy of the data than you might have on the open internet. So we chose to use the Microsoft version of this. Now, it provides intuitive interaction like you would with ChatGPT. You make language-based prompts, you get language-based replies and responses. And it accesses data from both OpenAI's extensive network of language models as well as their its knowledge, but also leverages OnePlan's own information as far as the discipline of SPM, and the data that actually is being presented within OnePlan is factored into the answers that Sophia provides. So it helps us in a lot of areas like data entry, information retrieval, anomaly detection, analysis, etc. And Sophia is always available to us in OnePlan. So if you look at here, I'm looking at a portfolio view in OnePlan, and in the lower right, we actually have an icon for Sophia that's available there at all times, and we can then call her up, and it gives us some common things we might want to ask her as examples, but you can then invent your own and ask those prompts down below, just like you would in ChatGPT. And then ultimately, where we're at with this is if you look at where it says now across the bottom, that's where Sophia is. She's an inbuilt AI assistant for strategic portfolio management. But I will say that we are already developing into that next wave in the future where we may have some autonomous, fully automated mode where Sophia can assess and promote and actually do some things for us proactively in advance of us actually prompting her to do something. So the idea here is that this is just beginning, but we have a fully functional, high-value tool right now, but it's only going to get better. Now, when you incorporate generative AI into overall strategic portfolio management practices, we're not asking people or suggesting that people should change the overall fundamental aspects of strategic portfolio management. According to the Gartner Group, these are some of the key pieces here. So for example, here, we can use AI to help us streamline portfolio intake and prioritization by doing analysis and helping give us suggestions on what it is we should consider approving through that intake process. We might build next generation talent. We are going to, as a workforce in our areas, have people that get proficient at using AI in their day-to-day to help augment their skill sets and help make them more efficient. If we don't, we're going to lag behind those that do. And we need to embrace disruptive technologies because those actually come into these portfolios. They affect our products, as we talked about. Technological advancements affects our products and the things we engineer on, regardless of the type of engineering that we do. And then if we don't embrace those disruptive technologies and find ways to accommodate them as part of our portfolio, we may have less than stellar results in relation to our competitors. So sample use cases for AI and strategic portfolio management. These are some that we're doing today right in OnePlan, helping us with our strategic planning, our portfolio optimization, our overall work management, schedule management, risk assessment, resource allocation, investment forecasting, and kind of analyzing and giving us help on the financial aspects of things. And for example, let's just use this as a case. Here's an example that I recorded about business case definition, and just say we have a project for some technology product and the engineering of that, and we wanted to build a business case for that. We could actually come in here and ask it that question. We could basically say, provide a business case for this project. That's all I said. It's knowing the characteristics that I gave it, very limited information, the name of the project, inferring the subject matter, and it's now going to give me a business case narrative, including an executive summary, a background, develop strong digital marketing capabilities, problem statement, etc., and all narrating this through the business case format that we want. Now, this should augment what we do in our knowledge of this. You know, we don't have to accept this verbatim, but I will tell you this, it gives us a great start instead of doing this from scratch each and every time as we go through here, as we look at those aspects. On the strategy side of things, let's just say we were looking at strategic objectives and key results for technology product engineering. We could come in here and ask it that question. So I could ask it, provide some viable OKRs for technology product engineering. And what it comes back with is some objectives, in this case, 3 key results on that first objective of improving product quality and stability, enhance product features and user experience, accelerate product development cycles, strengthen customer and product support, etc. And it's giving me those things that I can use as a basis to make these the objectives and key results that we're striving for as an organization. Once again, you don't have to take it verbatim, but it's sure giving us a great idea instead of coming up with these things from scratch. But with that, I thought I'd go into a demonstration and just show some of these things in OnePlan Live. So as I'm looking in here, where I'm at right now, notice there's a navigation in a more modern fashion here down the left side of this panel. And I'm in a home page or insights page, as we call it. And every user can come in here and you can have insights that are partially AI driven about the things that we require our attention on, things that are overdue, things that are out of compliance, things that I need to approve, etc. That's there. Me getting access to the things that I'm primarily involved in and be able to get to the different aspects of those elements, whether they be, you know, the work plan, the resource plan, the financial plan, etc., right here from my homepage. I can have conversations, the recent ones that are applicable to me on the efforts that I'm on regarding, you know, comments regarding tasks or resources or project plans or things like that that we have are all available to me here, and I can drill into them from here, as well as alerts on things that might be coming up that are due for me. The idea is that every user can have this place as a hub of information for them in one-stop shop. Now, we talked about the strategy being the key piece on the upfront. And as I go into strategy, you can have any number of objectives and key results in here. For example, as I go in here and I look at the objectives and key results for launch a new product line, right? If I wanted to drill into this, I could we have configurable forms that allow us to capture the data elements that we want to capture around this objective. And in this particular case, we're characterizing it as far as what business unit it's for, what its goals are, some KPIs on it, when we want to get it done, financial aspects around it that we need, possibly how it prioritizes with some prioritization weighted formula based upon business drivers, and the associated key results that we have here. You can modify this form and add fields in drag and drop method easily within the OnePlan admin pages. Now, the key part is yes, we can use this to execute, but we can also use it to understand what else it's related to. So for example here, I don't have any real predecessors or successors that have to happen before or after me, but if I look at the runway and I look at this and the things we're related to, you can see that this objective now has 3 key results that it's aligned with which in turn are aligned with different projects and epics within that, which in turn are aligned with different products in our product portfolio, and also aligned and maybe dependent in some way on the applications that we have here, as well as business capabilities and value streams. Once again, those associations are all possible by the robust portfolio management capability that we have here. Now, for example, if I was going to drill into the details around this, like for example, if this key result is at risk and it shows yellow, I could quickly pop out the data regarding this and take a look and see why is this at risk. And I can see that it's near-term delivery, it's almost there, but I'm only 50% completed, so it's at risk that we're going to make it in time. So the idea is I can go and look at that data and even drill into all the details around that should I want to. Maybe I have a product that I need to get to in order to make that happen and develop that. But the idea here is that we can have these strategic execution elements itemized within the plan and have them aligned with different other elements in the system. Now, ultimately, once we have a strategy in place, people are going to come up with ideas, right? And you can actually have a funnel and a portal that allows people to come in and submit their ideas as they see fit to the organization. And if I go in and look at one here like mobile application development, there's a product development effort. So we maybe need to engineer this, and there may be a business case narrative that you put in place. You might have to categorize it here by like business unit and type of project it is and what the goal is, for example. Once again, configurable. You might establish what it's going to take from a budget and what kind of benefits that we look like to return. You might have a prioritization method that generates a prioritization score. These things are all available to us here. As I come in and look at that, and there may be even an approval cycle that we go through. As we look and go to visualize this, right, we can see that actually we have the voice assistant integration that we're dependent on according to the precedence logic in our system. And the runway for this says that this mobile application development is supporting the objective of improved customer satisfaction as well as increased customer satisfaction score key result. It's also associated with our product called codename Pied Piper, and there's different applications that are in the mix that have to accommodate that or be looked at or considered as we do this, and it's part of a certain value stream. So once again, these things are all interrelated as we go through. Now, if I go back to the ideas list and I go to, let's just say, an all ideas view, you can either have prioritization scores in here based upon business drivers or other factors that drive that prioritization score on a calculated basis. We can also crowdsource and have people vote on these things. So for example, on this particular one, there's 2 total votes, and I've already voted on this as something that I think is important. So you can actually do some sentiment and some crowdsourcing on the ideas, as well as doing your own internal prioritization on these things. Now, if I go into the prioritization area and I go into a prioritization view that's just focused on the prioritization parameters, this might be a good place for me to just show a live use of Sophia as opposed to me just showing you one that we recorded. So in this case, I'm looking at a whole stable of ideas and requests, and I'm going to ask that based on priority and ROI, what 3 projects should we approve first and why? And it's going to analyze all the different dimensions of that. And it may take some minutes because it's some seconds, because that it is looking at not only what it knows from its general knowledge, it's also looking at OnePlan's knowledge of the product and the discipline of SPM, and then it's also looking at the specific data in your system here to come up with the answer that it's going to provide, or the suggestion it's going to provide to you. And as it does that, it's going to give us some ideas and maybe assess some things and look at some different dimensions of that we might not have looked at with our own surface human comprehension. In this particular case, it's saying the cybersecurity audit is not only high priority, but has strong strategic alignment and offers high return, and that proper security measures will help reduce the risk in the data breaches of other products that we have. And then it gives the same different rationale for the voice assistant integration and the customer relationship management. The idea is we're getting some assistance on the analysis here as we're going through that in the selection process. Now, ultimately, you can take these ideas or requests, and you can um, convert them. And you can take an idea and create it and convert it to a project or whatever other type of effort that you might want to, and carry forth with it all the data we collected in this ideation or request stage. So it's one big continuum as we go on through. As I look at the product portfolio, at the project portfolio, we can structure this portfolio flexibly any way we want. In this particular case, I've got a primary hierarchy portfolio, and so we've got multiple portfolios in this view for different parts of the organization. We have programs within portfolios, and then we have projects and epics within those programs. And then should it be a more agile or product effort, perhaps we have down to a feature level that we want to track, as well as the things that we want to prioritize at this portfolio level. So with the primary hierarchy, you can see, for example, that I have icons over on the left-hand side. And this is that integration piece that we were talking about. This is where we have built-in connectors. OnePlan has its own OneConnect platform that allows us to connect other tools. For example, I've got this data warehouse migration that shows a Teams icon from Microsoft, meaning I'm using Teams for collaboration and content, but I don't have a scheduling tool in here, meaning I'm using the scheduling capabilities of OnePlan right here. I have ones here that are using Microsoft Planner, one that's using Azure DevOps. I got one that's using Smartsheet, Jira, Project for the Web, Project Professional. The idea here is you have the power of choice on the execution tools you want to use to roll up into the portfolio. Now, in this particular case, let me show you that this view here, which is primarily a KPI-oriented type of view, we have other views that might have more financial columns, maybe ones that have more effort columns, maybe ones that are more schedule-oriented, etc. But we can also flatten out this and strip out the hierarchy if we want to, and look at just the projects and epics that are in here, for example. And then we can slice and dice this by whatever metadata or data we carry around our projects. So for example, as I look at this, though I have a primary hierarchy that I showed you, we could come into here and I could say, let's take this list of projects and let's group them by business unit. And when we look at it by business unit, it's now grouping and categorizing them by the different and summarizing them by those different, that piece of data. So here's all the application project, capital planning, IT projects, etc. Product development projects are all right here. And we can even filter down by those same parameters if you want to just focus on those. We might have categories of projects. So for example, very quickly, I can just pivot this and look at this by the different things. That here's innovation, right? And other product and process improvement types of things. So we have different types of projects we can look at, and we have the flexibility to have as many slices and pieces of metadata we want around a project. We also have board views. So if you're taking more agile approaches to the way you work at these things, we can look at these in terms of board views. We could actually drag things in from the backlog if they're there. We can choose what columns we want by the data that's available. In this case, I'm looking at by the state of the project, and I'm color coding it by the status of that project. So for example, if I was curious about this marketing research, even though I can only show so much data on a card, I can come in here and still use that same quick edit feature to come in and see the details of why this thing is red, and determine here really quickly it's because the schedule's off track. Everything else seems to be tracking okay, but the schedule is lagging behind, right? I can even add, lanes into here. So I could go add swim lanes in here, and let's say a swim lane I wanted to put in here was by, say, category of projects. So I've got process improvement category. I've got strategic projects, right? I've got compliance projects. I can look at them in a variety of different ways, and you're not limited in the number of different board views you might want to save into this, so that you can look at this in a variety of ways. This also is helpful for program increment planning. That's when we talked about going down to the feature level and be able to see what things fit into which program increments if you're using a more agile approach to these things. And then we have the roadmap views. That roadmap is automatically generated. Unlike some tools where you basically have static created roadmaps, it dynamically generates these roadmaps. And we can correlate these things with events and different things up top that allow us to put in context when these things are going to be delivered and related to other things. In this case, I've got the swim lanes on these by business unit, but I could do it by other things. Once again, I could do it by, say category, or by, who the manager is, whatever makes the most sense, what product or product line we're looking at, whatever data we're carrying around these projects, it's up to us to look at it that way. Now let's go into the portfolio list view again, and I'm going to go into the portfolio summary view. And this is one that's using the traditional hierarchy with multiple portfolios, different programs within those portfolios, and then all the different detailed initiatives within those. Now, with this here, I could bring up Sophia, for example, and I could ask it an analysis question. I'll say, which 3 projects are at the highest risk of failure and why? If I'm looking to see, maybe I'm assessing what other things that have come down the pike that maybe I would like to suspend something on one of these and maybe replace it with another project, or what other various areas. So here's the social media marketing strategy is off track and it's not meeting expected targets and posing high risk of failure. Market research, which we already showed was red before, brand management marketing. So these are the types of things in analysis that we can get out of this to help alert us to or prioritize the things that we may want to suspend or stop if they're not going to succeed. Now, if I drill into a project like this product launch, right, which could be engineering related, there's different dimensions on this. So for example, we have the details, which once again, a configurable details form that is categorized. So remember the things that we slice these by, things like business unit, we have value area, we have who the manager is, we have category, we have the goals, etc., the alignment of the strategies that we have. And the idea there was we have that as well as a life cycle or stage approach for this. And in this form can capture all the data you want, your prioritization scores and the mechanism you use to get there. Things that we're related to from an enterprise architecture perspective, right? The epic schedule, the financial snapshot of where we're currently at, where we're at from the burning of effort on the resources, etc., and the KPIs. But once again, this is a suggestion from a template, but you can modify these any way you like. On the work plan side of things, just like we have plan types at the portfolio level, portfolio program, we have work types here at the work item level. And for example, we have a schedule work type that's conducive to more waterfall type planning. You can look at this and interject your Gantt chart and things like that at any given point in time, right? More waterfall in its nature. You can connect this. Now, even though this one was basically built using OnePlan, you could connect it, should you enable these connectors, to other popular tools and have the source of this data come from these other tool sets. We also have a backlog work type. This is one where you can start building out things like your user stories, features, etc., as you build a backlog into this. And you can also build sprint plans as you go through here. So you can allocate certain things to sprints, etc. So for example, I could have sprints with thresholds and maximums for points, story points or hours, etc. And I can see which ones are in which sprints as I go on through. The key there is that you can do the agile planning in here, and even in the same project, you can have portions of it that are agile and portions of it that are waterfall and have them in the same plan, but in different work types within here. And the same thing is so true with logging issues, risks, changes, key decisions, etc. So once again, all the work items can be brought here very quickly into one place, and give one place for your actual team members and your resources to actually see those things all in one place when I get to the My Work area in a little bit. Now, the other piece is the resource plan. We can actually have resource plans that allow us either from the top down or bottom up, determine what resources are required. We can plan with generic resource types and named individuals or some combination of both. And we can plan in terms of hours or percentages or FTEs. And this is really giving us the ability to plan out the resources that are required. Let's say I just quickly switched and toggled FTEs, I can see what that means, but it always has an eye on the total picture. So for example, even though I only need a half an FTE of Oscar here in this month, he's already allocated, and he's already 2 times allocated to other things, meaning he's got an overage of 1.5 times. Now, we have this in demo data to illustrate a point, but I'd say I would suggest to you that if you have this kind of visibility constantly all the time, the likelihood that you would get somebody that over allocated in a period of time diminishes greatly as you have a visibility in what somebody's already on before you give them yet another piece of work. Now, in there, we also have the financials, and the financials and the labor costs can actually come from that resource plan. So you can actually, by the rates on the resources, drive the financial aspects of that, but also track non-labor categories on a time phase basis and actually track those things. In this case, I'm tracking a budget, but I also have a forecast, revised forecast, actuals, and even benefits and or revenue. And you can compare these different cost types, as we would say, and have a cost category structure that is conducive to the way you do business. So the idea here is that you've got these types of things at a very detailed level. Now let me jump to the resource plan, because that individual resource plan I just showed you from a individual project basis, those are rolling up to an overall resource plan. And this overall resource plan is a culmination of all the things we talked about. And in this particular case, I'm looking at resources that are over and under allocated, and I can look at them once again, probably switch them to FTEs as I go through to see just to what degree and get these people are over allocated. And let's say, for example, I wanted to look at these things by role, not just by the individual resources. And since we're talking about engineering here today, let's see how we're doing in the engineer ranks. And I can see that I have Daniel Williams, who is very over allocated because he's on all these different projects in these time frames. I also see that I still have some things generically assigned to the generic engineer that still have to have names put on them, right? And in this particular case, I can use OnePlan to help reconcile that. So let's just say I wanted to find a named individual to go on this user interface enhancement. I can actually find candidates, and I can either go by criteria or have OnePlan say, give me a best match. And it says to me the highest match is this Steve Masters, who has 100% availability to take on this work. And I can actually select Steve, and I can actually replace him with that generic assignment up above and take on the bandwidth for that as we go on through. So we have this type of comparison, and resource negotiations are available between project and or resource managers if we want to enable that through here. So once again, we get that type of workload here. Now, I could come in here and I could just expand this out. And as I look at all these things, I could ask Sophia a question here. And one of the questions I might ask is, which resources are most at risk of failure due to workload? And as I ask the question, it might give me some indication of where I have resource risk based upon the fact that I've overburdened some of these resources. It's basically giving that, because I selected the engineering resources, it's giving me an answer focused on the engineering area, that it's the one that's most at risk here. Now, the other element that I wanted to touch on today is this area of the enterprise architecture, or the architecture area here in OnePlan. The reason is because even though I have a primary project portfolio, I can also have portfolios in here for products, for business capabilities, for applications, for value streams, for organizational entities, etc. And I can build this any way I like. But the common ones we see are the ones that are here. And as I look at, say, for example, an element in the product portfolio, let's just say I wanted to drill into the code name Pied Piper. And what you'll notice is that for all these different plan types and portfolio types, the forms are different. So you can have a variety of different forms that are conducive to the type of portfolio item that you're looking at. In this case, I've got a product vision canvas here that talk about the different areas, the vision, the mission, places for the SWOT analysis that's in there, as well as other data elements and maybe even a life cycle of the product that's available to me here. We can even track financials. You can even put a work plan in here for a release plan against these products as we go on through. So as we're engineering this, not only in this case, I've got this by year, but the cost of this product's going to be, but I can even have a work plan here that lays out maybe the life cycle of the release cycles and other things that I have in here associated with that. And once again, we saw how this is aligned with other things. So if I go to visualize this, like we did earlier with the other components, I can see there is a precedence logic that it has with something else that it's a predecessor. But once again, it has its own runway of how it's driving at a key result and objective, and which projects and epics it's aligned with, as well as the business capabilities. So once again, that same concept is here in a product-centric basis as well. I guess the last piece that I'll touch on is the what-if modeling. And in the what-if modeling, it allows us to, take a subset of candidate projects and active projects and do some analysis and modeling on that as we go through. Like I might have one that's just strictly a product backlog prioritization on our product stuff, right? And I could come through here and take a look at these are the things we're considering doing. And I can, take a look at, different scenarios. If I only had a $3 million budget, what could I do and which selections could I do to get me within that budget threshold? And I can maybe say, what if I had $5 million, $2 million, what would that look like? And as I go through something like that, I can analyze the comparisons of the different budgets and what the benefits and what the points or resources that be required around those things, and compare those different analyses as we go on through here. As we look at, something that maybe had a more comprehensive analysis in there, I'll go into a different model. As I go through here, and as I look at, what it's going to take to do, say, a $10 million budget within this, I can see what's been selected on this $10 million budget. I can see that what I did, fits roughly within that $10 million budget, because that's what I asked it to do. And I can also see the veracity of the resourcing to see, is it a reasonable plan? It looks like I only have a couple hotspots on resourcing, so it looks like a very doable plan. And I can also then, compare certain things. For example, in this scenario, I could look at a bubble chart, and that bubble chart would say, these are the things I selected. How are they on a prioritization versus benefit score? And they all look like they're sitting pretty well, and the bubbles are the size of the budgets on these things. And I can also lay in the ones I didn't select to see if there's any standouts of things that I probably should have selected that I didn't. And our visualizer comes in really handy here, because we can take a look at what we selected and see what kind of unselected predecessors and successors exist, to see if we overlook something and see if we might want to reconsider our scenario based on those types of things as we go on through here. So once again, there's a lot of capabilities here to reconcile. And once again, this is a what if scenario, so you're not impacting data no matter how many manipulations you do at this point. We can analyze this freely without any problems. Now, if I go into, get out of this, and I go into, say, go into this alignment view, let me ask it, out of this scenario, maybe I'll ask Sophia to give me some suggestions, like, for example, what project should we consider moving from out to in, and why? Because we do have certain things we selected out and selected in. And maybe there's some things that might want us to consider and give us a reason for why. Because once again, we may not have considered everything. So it says we should consider moving the predictive maintenance project from hold to active. Okay, it has relatively high prioritization, expected to provide significant benefits, and also some cost savings. So the idea here is it's giving us its idea of a candidate that we should maybe reconsider our position on. So once again, helpful in that mix. So, and I guess the only things I'll flash at you right now because of time is there's a My Work area where anything that a person's working on is available for them to not only status with % complete, or even put notes or comments around these things, right, as we go through to communicate with others on that mix. Got one place to put for that. And if you need to report time, there's a timesheet that's already built in here that you can report time right in here without having a separate timesheet system. So with that, I think I'll go back to the slide portion and just say, there's many other scenarios that we didn't really cover in the demo given time, but you can do strategic planning, like identify patterns and opportunities and potential risks in your strategic plan. You could actually do some work management things where you actually can have it create a plan and a detailed plan and a work breakdown structure for you based upon the data that's in the system. You can actually do portfolio optimization and help it summarize and help you portfolio that, optimize this portfolio based upon the suggestions of the data that's in there. We could look risk identification and mitigation by identifying potential risks on an individual project or in a portfolio. We can even help with resource capacity planning. It could actually provide a sample resource plan for a project. Just like I provided a business case, it could suggest a resource plan based on its knowledge. Also predictive analysis on things like financials. That's something that's always available to us in here. Communication aspect, another thing that sometimes, if we can streamline this process to be able to have it write a project summary email to my manager, for example, I could come in here and actually ask it to write a summary email, and it will. So for example, these types of routine tasks, sometimes mundane, we can speed this process up by having it, look at it, it's basically creating it in email format. and it's sectioning it by objectives and some of the metrics and other the pieces that are there in the progress right here within the solution. So once again, helping us and assisting us in becoming more effective and freeing us up for more high value activity. So as far as summarizing and next steps, engineering does have its own unique challenges for success in the organization, and it also has some of the common project and portfolio management challenges that others have. And better alignment with strategy and business architecture is needed for successful outcomes in this modern age. Strategic portfolio management has become important in today's business environment because of the increased complexity, fast pace of change. We need to move to this in order to be more effective in this environment. And the introduction of generative AI adds to the degree of change that are impacting the engineering and product portfolios. And OnePlan provides a full end-to-end SPM solution in the Microsoft Cloud that's available to you. Now you can adopt certain aspects of this in a crawl, walk, run approach, and we can help you kind of roadmap that if you like. And the use of AI provides a valuable assistance and helps make us more effective and maybe streamline some of our activities. We're recognized as a leader in this area, whether it be Microsoft's Global PPM Partner of the Year 5 consecutive years, the recognition by Gartner, Infotech Research, and other review sites on the leadership and the capabilities of our solution. You can also free trial our software. The full strategic portfolio management solution that has everything in it is the one I'd recommend, though there's something focused just on product portfolio management if you want it, but this is the one that would be more analogous to the things we covered today. Go to oneplan.ai/solutions, and we're happy to chaperone you through that. So trial, we can actually do a roadmap workshop with you for free to understand what it's going to take to get you from point A to point B. Or if you want to see more, schedule a personalized one-on-one demo that we can address to focus on your pain points and your requirements. Reach out at contact@oneplan.ai or research more about us at www.oneplan.ai. So that's the end of our time here today. I'd like to thank you for investing it with us. That hub, that single pane of glass, we call that the power of one.